I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just wanted to say, major spoiler alert, we are going to be going over everything from Season 3, Episode 9 of The Bad Batch. So if you haven't watched that episode yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to Disney Plus, check that out, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show.
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
Joining with me to break down everything from Season 3, Episode 9 of The Bad Batch, it's Johnny Rico!
Hello.
Hello!
How we doing?
We're doing good. Look, everything's like happening. I feel like we're gonna start saying this for everything that we're recording. We're starting to get almost everything we want, and it's got me worried because, as I've said,
moving along nicely.
Right. As I've said in other recap videos, both for Bad Batch and for other things, when we tend to start getting a lot of the things that we want, there's going to be a time where another shoe's going to drop and things are going to happen.
Shit
and
will hit the fan.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. But for now, episode 9, I think it's absolutely solid episode. I love the interaction between Omega and Ventress. I love when there's a couple of key scenes that I really, really like. And the first one, I just have to, it's my pop culture reference of our recap. I don't always get the opportunity to do it, but so when I do, I have to lean into it as hard as possible. Ventress tells Omega, like, stop smiling. It's very unsettling. And in that moment, all I could think of was Will Ferrell as Buddy the Elf going,
"Why are you smiling like that?"
I just like to smile. Smiling's my favorite.
And I just was like, I want that so bad to happen right now. I want Omega to just turn and go, why don't you smile as often? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I wanted her to react like, kind of like, I like smiling. Like, it wouldn't hurt if you did too. But yeah, I mean, other than that, very solid episode. I do like that we kind of got more hints at why Omega is important, but like they still didn't come out and tell us right away. I'll get more into that kind of in my predictions and stuff like that. But yeah, there were a lot of things that I really enjoyed about this, and some elements of kind of thematic elements that I've enjoyed that I'll get more into in my takeaways and stuff that I've talked about in previous episodes. But Rico, what were some of your instant reactions from episode 9?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I'm really glad I got my Ventress episode.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing her all season, and she did not disappoint at all. She was just really, it was really good to have her in this episode and just seeing her interact with both the Bad Batch and Omega, because it's kind of two sides of the same coin. Because you have the Bad Batch, who was very aware of who she was back during the Clone Wars days, and they're very suspicious of her during pretty much most of the episode. And I like the way that she has to kind of gain their trust throughout that as well. And then you also have Omega, who's just she just has this instinct to kind of trust everybody as soon as she meets them. Like, she needs a reason to distrust somebody before she starts to be like that towards them. So I really like kind of just seeing that balance between that two, because Ventress is a different person from when we saw her during the Clone Wars, and it's kind of seeing it's cool kind of seeing someone give her a chance versus the people who were hesitant to give her a chance. So that was a really fun little story arc for me to watch during this.
Yeah, I really like the solid words from Omega to Crosshairs, where she goes, "I didn't give up on you."
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I really maybe want to see kind of a Ventress and Crosshairs kind of a buddy show.
look, I do think there's something there when Crosshair extends his hand to help her onto the ship, onto the stairs of the ship. There's a little look. There might be something there moving forward that we might see again. It was really cool to kind of see a dynamic shift. So we had the guys of the Bad Batch who have been kind of, like keeping Crosshair at almost like an arm's length, but
Mhm.
you know, still learning to trust him again
Yeah.
and learning to work with him again. But immediately they work back together and like they're like, "Yo, Crosshair's on our side now. Who the hell are you?" Like, you know what I mean? So it was kind of
Right.
cool to see that quick dynamic shift when you kind of introduce a different threat type of thing. So it was cool to see that dynamic switch like completely. Like,
Yeah.
we're all working together versus this other person now. So
Yeah, and like Wrecker always says, why is it always gotta be a giant monster?
sadly, there was no favorite record quote of this episode, but there's
Mm.
still hope. There's still episodes left that I can
Yeah.
get some more favorite records quotes. But before we get too far into it, you want to get to some big takeaways?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome! All right, why don't you kick off big takeaways for us?
Okay, so I want to talk about my hands down my favorite scene of the episode, which was Ventress taking on the Bad Batch, basically in a hand-to-hand combat. And I love the way she's like, she takes away the weapons of the force. She's like, no cheating.
Yeah.
But first of all, like not just like the fight itself was awesome, but the animation for the hand-to-hand fight techniques, what I thought was particularly impressive here in this scene, because obviously we see Lucasfilm do some great work with like their animated work with like lightsaber scenes, stuff like that. But seeing them do like real legit martial arts stuff in their animated scenes, I thought was really impressive, and it was just really cool to watch. So really just a big shout out to the animation team on this particular scene itself, because I thought it was just a really well done display of like actual fighting techniques. And yeah, that was just like one of my favorite things, and it also just established how badass Venture still is, you know. So
Yeah.
it was really kind of cool, and it's just another way to show like one of the ways she was trying to earn their trust. Like, I'm not trying to like kill you guys. I'm just going to show you I'm better than
Yeah.
you, and then we can actually get to like real business. So yeah, I really love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like I was saying before we even got into takeaways, that kind of another reason why I really enjoyed that scene in general was because we did get to see the entire, what's left of the entire Bad Batch crew
Mhm.
working together again, like type of thing, like against a common foe. So it wasn't like, well, we trust Crosshair to a certain extent. It was like, we're all working together to, fend off this other person type of thing. So it was cool to kind of see that group dynamic kind of roll back in, I guess,
Yeah,
in a
absolutely.
time of need. So I'm hoping that kind of, that relationship of all of them is starting to build more and more with trust and that kind of thing moving forward.
And I like that it all takes place with when Omega is doing her deed to go
Yeah.
get the white blossom, and then Shuzi comes back. She's like, "Well, what the hell happened here?" Like,
they come back, Wrecker's being like choked out.
yeah, it's like when the parent leaves and then the siblings start fighting. Except in this
Yeah.
case, the kid leaves and the parents are fighting.
Yeah,
So it's really really funny.
all hell breaks loose. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was great.
But my biggest takeaway, like I had to bring it up again, and I know I've mentioned it in multiple episodes at this point for this season, is I just really appreciate when they can incorporate like horror elements into this series, but still make them make sense. It doesn't feel out of place. But like when we have Batcher and Omega first going into the cave, like we had some creepy music, we had a very dark, very dark screen, so we couldn't even really tell what's going on. And then she kind of like stumbles into the ship, like, and then all of a sudden, like, you know what I mean? Like we had these elements of horror, but like I just feel like they incorporate them so well when we get them. It doesn't feel out of place. It's still there, like it's still this series. It's not just like, oh, we're gonna make something a little creepy to make it creepy. It works in universe and in this series so well. I really enjoy that. And then another like example of that is when they're on the boat, like still doing the force tests, and the big giant sea monster comes and stuff like that. That was still kind of like a not horror-y, but like Jaws horror.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Type of thing. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I just think I just really appreciate when they can kind of incorporate different elements of themes, I guess, into a series and make them make sense in series. So, and I just feel like they've done that so well with, throughout the entire series in general, but this season in particular, I've seen that more often, and I've really enjoyed that. So
Absolutely.
yeah, but you want to get to some predictions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna kick off predictions just with a statement, and I don't think anyone's gonna argue at this point. Definitely think Omega is still force sensitive. Like I definitely think that's going to be a reveal that's going to come out moving forward. I think this was just like a red herring episode where like, yeah, he didn't really pass any tests, but like, you know what I mean? Like I definitely think it's going to come out. Like,
you think we're gonna see her actually use the Force? Is that what you're saying?
I do, and I don't think it's going to be like, oh, she's going to start training for it. I think it's going to happen in a moment of crisis, like in a moment of need.
Yeah.
She's going to either have to pull somebody, she's going to have to push something.
It's gonna come out of nowhere, especially probably for her too.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. And I think that's what's going to kind of unlock, because that's what Ventress was kind of saying is you're not letting yourself like let it go type of thing. And I think it's going to happen in a time of need. Same thing that I think is going to happen along the same lines, maybe the exact same thing. Along the same lines that I think we're going to have Crosshair's break through his mental block. As far as being able to line up
I think
shots.
It's all going to be a big super fuck. All these things coming together.
I think they might not happen for the same event, but I think there's going to be key moments for both of those things that are going to.
We do have a two-parter coming up, which probably could have some big stuff happening.
Yeah. The only other thing of note that I had to say, and like I said, that's not a prediction. If we were betting, this would be an obvious bet that Omega was going to be force sensitive and Crosshair was going to be able to light up a shot again. But I did have to make a note of this. I didn't know where else to make a note of this. Omega is the worst liar in the history of the Star Wars galaxy.
I mean, yeah.
She goes, oh yeah, it's for a friend of ours, and they want to know what high M count means because they're in trouble. And then,
second she hears something, she goes, "Wait, it's me." And then,
oh, you mean I might have force?
She let it out right away.
Yeah, like immediately. I was like, shut up.
I was like, if you had a little bit more confidence in that, you could have actually like pulled that one off. Like, oh yeah, we know somebody who's we don't know who they are, but like, we can't tell you who they are, but like they're wondering about it. But she immediately was like, yeah, cool, yeah, like horrible poker face for sure. Which is funny because she's great at gambling.
Yeah, exactly. I don't get it. Maybe it's just it's two of a
stressful
like
situation. Like,
I think it kind of goes back to something you said where she's so trusting. She just immediately like halfway into the conversation, she's like, "Oh yeah, this person doesn't mean anything bad. Like I'll just say it's me." Like, you know what I mean? So like, I think maybe it is kind of the naive, like just overly trusting, like sensibility. But I was just like, as it happened, I was just like.
Yeah, it was wild. I was kind of thinking the same thing as well.
But Rico, we got some predictions moving forward.
Okay, there's quite a few things that this episode kind of left me wanting to see more of in the future. Obviously, Ventress brings up the danger level that they're in with having Omega because she's always going to be a target. Like they're never going to stop looking for her, and kind of brings up the notion of like Omega possibly just having a life without the Bad Batch, essentially. Because and I would imagine that's probably what we're building up to. If you want to continue telling stories with Omega and then also ending the story of the Bad Batch as well, it just makes a lot of sense. And now that we know that Ventress is still alive and kicking, and she's kind of out doing her own thing, and she's still wielding the Force, she's still got a lightsaber. I feel like there's a good. And I feel like we haven't seen the last of her yet either. I think there's still a lot of unanswered questions with her as far as like how is she still living after the Dark Disciple book and all that. So I'm wondering if we'll end up seeing Omega be like, okay, I gotta go off my own. She ends up leaving with somebody like Ventress who can look after her and kind of teach her something that the Bad Batch can't teach her, obviously, when it comes to ways of the Force and all that. So I think that's just like another life path for Omega to go to possibly go down in the future, and maybe even possibly run into someone like Quinlan Vos, who I keep mentioning, who has a history with Asajj Ventress, and someone who was mentioned in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series as well, where we talked about the path where they were smuggling Force sensitive people. So now that Omega is one of those people, it could definitely be something that she could take part in as well. So yeah, there's it really just widened the potential for Omega's storytelling in a big way. And Ventress talks about, she's got many lives left. So I want to learn more about how she came back to life, because obviously in the Dark Disciple book, she's killed by Dooku's Force lightning. And then she's kind of left in Dathomir as like in a resting place. So obviously I have to imagine the Dathomir witches have some kind of a role in her coming back to life, just like they did someone like Maul. So yeah, it's so much to learn here still. Like it probably be told in either Bad Batch or a new story.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see kind of where we're going. Like, I mean, it's interesting that next week we're getting a 2-parter. It's gonna be. I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
But even with this, like, we kind of just ended. Like, we resolved what we resolved, but like, yeah, we don't know.
We didn't.
I know.
Because she lied to Omega about the low M count thing, I think, and then she kind of implied to the Bad Batch that like, okay, I told her that. But yeah, it just feels like we got like the Bad Batch got some answers, but like we didn't get answers. Like we got answers that we already kind of knew, but they're still like she just kind of like popped by, say hello, yeah, this is what M count is, and then she left.
Correct me if I'm wrong. When you're a Force wielder, can't you sense? Haven't we had examples of where like one Jedi can sense that there's another Jedi nearby, or at least someone that is Force sensitive nearby, type of thing? Like, can't they?
They can, they can feel someone with the Force to varying levels. Like,
wouldn't that just have been the instant test? Like, can you feel that she's got a Force? Like,
sort of. It affects everybody differently, and yeah, and they actually did a better job of kind of explaining the M count in this episode, where they kind of say like, well, everybody has an M count because they talk about the Force flowing through everybody, and then of course, like when they introduced the Midichlorians back in the prequels, they were like, well, that kind of negates, I feel like, that notion. And then Asajj kind of lays it out a little bit more, like we all have it to varying degrees, so it just kind of depends on what your level is, basically. So I would imagine like she's got the level where she just can't sense it in other people or something like that. But obviously Asajj knows that she has it.
Yeah. But as we always say, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of episode 9? And are we going to see, number one, Crosshairs being able to line up shots in the future? And are we going to ever see Omega use any Force abilities? There are no wrong answers. We don't know the answer. I can't wait for the 2-parter next week. And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.